Today was day 2 of the Karen Reed trial, so I'm going to give you my daily recap. We're back home from the Bahamas. It was a full day of testimony. I listened to the majority of it on the airplane, which was really nice just to have an AirPod in while my kids were watching their movies and be able to listen to everything. But wow, it was just a lot of information today. Before the jury came in, Brennan starts off by arguing a motion that he has Jennifer McCabe's Apple Health data. He's saying that he's not intending to use it. It shows her heart rate. And he says that Trooper Gorino is not going to testify with that information. And he's asking that the defense does not use that data, even though he's turned everything over to them in a timely manner, because this is about Jen McCabe, and she is not part of the third-party culprit defense that the defense's theory is alleging. They are having some issues scheduling the ARCA experts voir dire. The judge wanted to do that on Friday. Scheduling issues, they can't do it on Friday. She wanted to do it then tomorrow. They can't do it tomorrow. So she is now saying that they'll be able to potentially do it on Monday afternoon. They'll do a half day of testimony with the jury. They'll dismiss the jury, and then starting at 12, they'll have the ARCA experts on. So Kerry Roberts is back on the stand, and the jury comes in. They're introducing the ring footage as evidence when her and Jen McCabe were arriving at One Meadows Ave. This is really crucial evidence because Kerry Roberts said that Jen McCabe and Karen Reed were all walking into the house, and Karen Reed pointed out the broken taillight to her when they were coming in. And she said that her taillight was cracked. Do you think I hit him? Could I have hit him? And Kerry said, what? No, you didn't hit him. She noticed there was a metal piece sticking out of the light, and you could tell that it was missing and cracked. And she said she thought to herself that somebody could catch their puffy winter jacket on it and rip their jacket. So that stuck out to her in her mind. I'm not sure if it's in my notes later on, but I do want to mention right now that when Kerry, Karen, and Jen are leaving One Meadows Ave, John's house, that ring video footage is missing. So Kerry starts to go into the event that evening when they arrived on scene at 34 Fairview. It was the three of them traveling in one car together, and Jen McCabe and Karen Reed are riding passengers. Kerry is driving, and she says that Karen was the first to spot John, who sees his body on the front lawn at 34 Fairview. When they're driving by, she starts kicking the door, asks to jump out. Kerry sees him. He's totally covered in snow at that point, and she runs over and starts doing chest compressions until the emergency personnel arrived. In that window, she tells Jen McCabe to call 911, and then kind of her next plan of action after being out in the snow for 30 minutes or so is that she called Mrs. O'Keefe and told her the news, and she decided that she would go pick her up and drive her to Good Samaritan Hospital because the O'Keefe's cars didn't have four-wheel drive. In the car with Kerry Roberts, she gets a call from the ambulance, and it's she's in the car with Peggy O'Keefe. It's Karen Reed. And she asks Karen what happened, and Karen says she left him at a party, and Peggy clarifies, you just left him? And Mr. O'Keefe is also in the car, and he says, okay, that's enough. Eventually, they enter into evidence the picture of John's face. We don't see the picture on the screen, but she says that his eyes were swollen, looks like pools of blood and raccoon eyes. She explains that he looked worse once they got to the hospital, too. So before this accident, Kerry Roberts had only met Jen McCabe one time. After this accident, they talked all the time. They both wanted to know what happened to their friend. They stayed in close communication. They were talking almost daily, and there's lots of phone calls and text messages between the two of them. Okay, just to get you caught up on where we still are, Hank Brennan is still questioning Kerry Roberts, and Kerry says that she is friends with Michael Lank, and she recognized him on the scene. Her daughter is friends with his daughter, and her and Mike, they're on a first name basis, and she's friends with his wife as well. The day after the accident, she actually goes over to Sergeant Lank's house with Jen McCabe. At this point, Brennan plays the whole dash cam video from Officer Sarath. There's no audio. He does make a point to bring up 6:23 a.m. and 08 seconds. Kerry Roberts is not in the camera view, but I believe that he's referring to this timestamp because this is when they're alleging that Jen McCabe actually did make this Google search, and it was at Karen's request, but you can't see them on the screen. In the dash cam video, we do see the ambulance drive away. It's around 6:27 at that point. And then Hank Brennan really gets focused on where Kerry Roberts is in this video, and it's so hard to see. It's hard to understand when there's no audio too. So she is actually the one who found John's cell phone. She said under John's body there was no snow. She did find the cell phone, and when she found it, she put it into her pocket, and then at some point she turned it over to first responders. I'm guessing he's either getting into the temperature data for the phone. He's going to put that into evidence, and he wants to make sure like she stays outside of the vehicles. So we'll have to see where he goes with entering temperature data there. Cross-examination is done by Alan Jackson, and it's his turn now. Like with some of the other witnesses that have come up before, he wants to establish what her preparation was in advance of this trial. She said since the accident, she's talked to the DA's office around 50 times, specifically her victim advocate, Mr. Steve Nelson, about 30 times, Yuri Buchanan, he's a state trooper, and Michael Morrissey in the DA's office. He is the district attorney. She said she talked to them about 20 so times. She gets updates from the three of those people. Sometimes Jen McCabe would actually ask her to ask them questions on Jen's behalf. In the last couple of weeks, she met with Hank Brennan to talk about her testimony. She wasn't cross-examined last trial, so they talked about what would happen if she was going to be cross-examined this time. I think they didn't cross-examine her last time because she was after Jen McCabe, and you didn't really need to, but she comes as a witness so early this time that I think you had to. Jackson wants to play the same dash cam video, this time with audio. They start going over injuries. Jackson brings up the right arm and he says, "Did you see the wounds on the right arm?" And she goes, "Yeah, those were scratches." Totally minimizing and downplaying what they are, even though we've all seen the picture and we know they look like more than scratches. So at this point, they drive back to One Meadows, and Jackson refers to the grand jury testimony about the taillight of the car when she was saying, "My taillight, do you think I hit him? Do you think I hit him? Do you guys think I hit him?" And Kerry wants tons of reference to the reports. She also is a very annoying witness because she kind of like can't hear some of the things he's saying, and she asks for him to repeat things a lot. So April 26, 2022 was the grand jury testimony. She was under oath. She agrees her memory was fresher at that point than it is now. And we're seeing the One Meadow ring camera again when they're all entering the house. Like I said, the video of them leaving doesn't exist. The two troopers that interviewed her on the 29th, she said she couldn't remember their names, but she at that point did not mention anything about a cracked taillight in that interview. On February 1st, she was interviewed again, and at that point, her and Jen McCabe have started to corroborate their story a little bit and make up what they are calling a timeline. She brings up the taillight to the troopers at that interview. She said she noticed the back right taillight and a piece in the middle was broken. That's what's in the report. On February 1st, she was also interviewed at Jen McCabe's house with Jen McCabe on like 12 Country Lane or something. She agrees that her and Jen talking about the case has influenced her memory. In the third interview that she has after the accident, it's a telephone interview with Trooper Proctor in Jen McCabe's house. And she says that Jen was there and Jen's sister Denise was there too, and Denise was helping with writing the timeline as well. February 2nd at 12:08 p.m., she signed a consent for her form and she willingly turned over her phone to be looked through and like data extracted. I'm going to have you guys go to part 2 because there's just a lot more that comes up in this point. This is where we see that she potentially perjured herself.